Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to open the meeting with the public forum. I've got the sheet. We're going to start with Ariel Parkinson. Ariel, would you like to come to the mic, please? Ariel, I'm sorry.
No, that's Sorry, I wrote things down because otherwise I like to ramble. All right. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate that. I want to start by saying that this district is near and dear to my heart. I could not wait to bring my children here so that they could have the same small town experiences that I had. Unfortunately, the past couple of years, I've seen a disconnect in the experiences that they're getting in the district versus what I had as a child. I'm here to ask some questions today. Another parent approached me last night with some disturbing rumors, and I'm here to see if there's any truth to those rumors. The first was that I was told that our children, who will be heading into 6th grade next year, will only have 2 homerooms and 1 special education room. I would like to know if this is true because, as we all know, smaller class sizes always lead to improved academic growth, and increased class sizes lead to declines in academic growth. I have watched this class grow together, deal with a pandemic together, and now work through getting back to some sort of normal together. As with all students here in Red Creek, these children are all wonderful and special in their own way and deserve our very best as a district. We have a lot of big personalities in this group that deserve the opportunity to grow and learn in a safe space where they are not forced to be with peers that they struggle with. And because we as a district are not providing them with the opportunities that our amazing teachers can provide by separating them in a way that will benefit them both academically and behaviorally. My second concern is that it was also brought to my attention that there's not currently an in-person Spanish teacher for our students in the middle school. I would like to know if this will continue to be the situation for our students next year, or if there's a plan to hire a teacher in the works. As a teacher who has taught students both in person and virtually through the pandemic, I know that students who are taught virtually, by and large, will not have the same level of academic achievement as those who are taught in person by teachers. This is why teachers, administrators, and parents all fought so hard to get our students back into the classroom. If the plan to go forward is to have our students taught Spanish by a virtual teacher, I would please like to know what the justification is, because it is certainly not because it is what is in the best interest of our children. I appreciate your time, and I do not want to monopolize all of it here, but I do want to say this. You have a great community of both parents and teachers. It is a large part of why my children go to this school. But the community activities have all but disappeared, at least for the elementary school. In the district I work in, we had a Halloween parade, field trips, and other activities that my own children missed out on this year. I feel like more and more our parents are being pushed out of our district, and we are involved less and less. It is both my professional opinion and my parental observation that when communities and schools work as one, students will be the ones who benefit the most. I hope to see us heading back in that direction in the future so that my children can experience the same love of school and community that made me so eager to become a teacher. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you.
Excuse me. All right, she was our only speaker signed up today. So with that, I'd like to move on to the regular meeting revised minutes for May 4th, 2020. And then we also have the regular meeting minutes for May 18th. Do we have a motion for either or both for approval?
Can we separate them?
Separate them, okay. Yep. All right, regular meeting revised May 4th, 2022. Do I have a motion? Yep, Mr. Curtis, a second. Okay, Ms. Madigan. Okay, any discussion? Okay, yes.
It has the same error in it.
Which
I don't know if we were changing that or checking into what we could do. There's the, excuse me. Bear with me while I get to it.
Yeah.
Scrolling. It was the section where it said that Mrs. Allen and Mr. Curtis moved to table the item, but that's not actually what happened. I thought we had discussed that.
So, I'm trying,
Trying to find it,
where's
sorry.
your, yeah, the question here?
Okay, there's no question. I think there's still an error.
Okay, what, is it a error that can be corrected in the motion?
Well, if I could find it, then I would be able to tell you, but
Okay.
I can't. Am I on the right one? Yes, okay, so it's on page 2, the very top section. The second sentence says, in order to have a quorum, a motion was made by Mrs. Allen and seconded by Mr. Curtis to table the minutes of April 27, 2022 special meeting until the next board meeting, May 18th, 2022. That is inaccurate. If we could update it to the correct, that it was motioned for a vote and it was, it failed, then I would be able to vote in favor.
Okay, that was the one that, that we had a 3-3 vote on that one, correct? Okay.
And one absent, I think.
However you want.
Yeah, so we could amend, within the motion, we could just amend what's written here. If you'd like to do that, Mr. Curtis, you made the motion.
Sure.
You'd like to amend it to, do you want her to repeat that so that,
No, we tabled it, but, and the other way, we didn't table it because it failed to vote. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I'm just
There was a-
saying that it states that you and Mrs. Allen motioned and seconded to table it, but that didn't actually happen, and, you know, we live stream these.
But I think we voted to table it, but then realized that we voted 3-3 and it was a failed vote.
failed
So
vote?
it was, we voted to table it, but in reality, we couldn't table it because it already was voted on. Is that what you're saying?
No. I believe, according to my notes, that Mr. Dates called for a motion to approve, and that's what the motion was. And then we voted, and it didn't pass, and at the end of the meeting, Mr. McDonald said, what are we doing with this? We didn't get a favorable vote, and then it was decided that we would table it. So,
Well, we tabled it at that one until we're waiting for Mr. Utes to see if he showed up, and then at the end, Mr. Utes did not show up, so it
Right.
was tabled to the end of that meeting.
I don't remember there ever being a motion to table. I don't remember that. If you check the
Yeah.
video, I think it's, the motion is asked to approve. I just want the notes to reflect what we have
Okay,
on the video.
So I guess what we could do, we could either just amend the writing within the motion as it presently is. The clerk can take the corrected wording if you'd like, and then we could put this to rest.
Maybe we should double check though, because Mr. Curtis and I are maybe remembering it a little differently, which he could be right.
Well, I do know that we anticipated Mr. Utes being able to be here, and we did hold off on that, but unfortunately, he was not able to make it, and so that we still had, we weren't able to come back to it to change anything.
And I'm reading the minutes here, when we put in, your motion was made by you, seconded by Mr. Nodine to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 3rd, and everybody voted yes but Mr. Utes, but then in the same thing, in the same area, coming down, it says, Mrs. Cook, Ms. Madigan, and Mr. Nodine were absent, so I'm not quite sure what you want to do there.
Well, they were,
Because I'm looking at that page
Mrs.
now.
Cook,
Yep.
Mrs. Madigan, and Mr. Nodine were absent for the April 27th special meeting, so they're
Right.
two different.
Yeah, that was
things.
that was a special meeting
Right,
for the
for the-
BOCES. All right, so I'm still, would you like to amend the wording of this to correct the wording in the, within this resolution?
Well, technically, we did table it to the end.
Right, right.
We voted onto it, but we voted and it was, so the minutes really don't mean, right now, it looks like we voted onto it and it was a 3-3,
3-3, right,
3-3.
right,
I don't think we can table it after
No,
it's
we
been
can't.
voted on.
right.
I think that's where the issue
Okay.
falls.
So, Is there anything impactful that this is going to be historically of concern, I
But
guess?
we didn't approve the minutes.
Yeah,
That
And-
time, we didn't approve the minutes, right, Mr. Corey?
right.
Yeah, and Ann is one of our attorneys over there. So the guidance that we received is that by law, you don't even have to have your minutes approved by the Board of Education. Is that accurate, Ann? Okay,
Okay. So,
but they're not, are they required? Well, we can come back to that.
yeah.
Okay.
So with this, so let's, are you asking then for
I voted no last time
Right.
because of this error and the error that Larry found in the dates
Right.
referring to the budget vote. So if they stay the same, it's fine. I'm going to vote no.
So
So-
we can't vote again on those, they've been voted on.
Right.
yeah,
Well,
So that's
you've already had a
stands.
3-3 vote, right? So it's a
done deal,
motion to not,
yeah,
well, it's a
Fail.
vote to not accept the minutes
minutes,
currently,
right.
correct? Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was, yes, so when we did it.
No, it was a motion to accept the minutes, which it was voted 3-3. So it was voted down. No,
Yeah.
It's on here as revised.
Right, and it says we
Correct.
should have we were supposed to table it. We wanted to table them to see if Mr. Utes came in, but he never came in. So it still is a 3-3 vote. So
Right.
in here, it just says table though.
Yes,
but there's disagreement on how the language reads.
yeah. Sure. We have our remote on?
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have two options. You can right now amend the minutes and then vote on that, or you can just go to a vote of the minutes as they are, just as you were talking about.
Mhm.
Typically, right, those are your two options.
Okay, so, given that guidance, do we want to amend them or just,
Amend them then.
Let's amend the minutes and
Okay.
move on.
all right, what do we want it amended to?
What happened?
I mean, but what do we want to amend it to, Kate? I mean, how would you like it to read in your
Well,
mind?
it's not my motion, but
No, it's not your-
I'm thinking that Larry and I don't remember it exactly the same. Is there any way that,
So let's come to an agreeable space on this.
I just would like to say that it failed at however you want to put it, because that's what happened. And that way, it makes sense why we're voting again. That's why it's up
Well,
again, is
I
because it
think-
didn't carry.
Yeah, it shows that it failed because it's 3-3. We've just brought it back to, under revision. Your question is, you're saying the revision's not correct.
Well, is the date correct for you in the port?
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing here is the way it's worded is just because the three weren't here, were absent from the April 27, 22 special meeting, and will abstain from voting to approve the minutes. In order to have a quorum, a motion was made by Mrs. Allen and myself to table the minutes, and that was to the end of the board packet, to see if we could, in here, it doesn't say we voted on it yet.
Yeah, I think the motion was just to table to the end of the meeting,
end of
not
the
to
meeting.
carry it to the next
This
meeting.
is to say to table, it should have said table to the end of the meeting.
So if we,
But in reality, we wound up saying, all right, we're gonna, because still it would be a 3-3 vote, but in reality, it was a 3-3 vote, so.
right, so.
No matter
even-
what, it failed.
Right, even if we table it and say it was tabled to the end and that 3-3
fine.
held,
That's fine.
okay?
I just put in there table and 3-3.
Okay? Is that good with your, Mr. Curtis?
Yeah, that's,
Mrs. Madigan?
Yeah, the vote will be in there, is what you're saying?
Well, we aren't voting on it tonight, so it would just reflect the previous vote of 3-3.
Yeah, it's reflective of the vote being a no vote.
So
To
there'll
accept
be
the
the
minutes.
3 of us listed as yes and the 3 of us listed as abstain.
Bill, is that what you have?
Mr. McDonald, that's what you had.
What we were just talking about right now.
Mhm. So,
And the 3, you want to list the 3 noes and the 3 yeses?
They just usually are, that's why I
Okay.
said it.
previous, right.
Okay.
So, okay, so I guess we're moving on. Yeah, all right, regular meeting, May 18th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Are we voting again on that one? Do we vote again
I
on that
didn't,
one?
We
I
gotta
think,
call,
I think we just concluded that that table was to stay until the end of the meeting. We did not come back to it because Mr. Utes didn't come, so that 3-3 vote stays.
Yep, we have to vote on.
Yeah, but it
those
still doesn't
minutes.
carry, there were 4, right?
We have to vote on B1.
right, still got to vote on.
All right,
I don't know,
I guess-
I'm asking,
all right,
I'm totally
we'll-
confused.
all right, well, I guess, you know, within the questions, I guess it's created more confusion. So we'll vote on B1. We had a motion and a second. Okay, any more discussion? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay, thank you.
Abstain.
Abstain? Yep, I'm sorry, I forgot that one for you. I'm sorry. 601, yep. Thank you. Regular meeting of May 18th, 2022. Do I have a motion for that? Yes. Mrs. Allen. And Mr. Nodine, second. Discussion for May 18th. Minutes. Okay, no discussion? Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. Okay. The financial reports, there are none for this month. Okay, we're on down to unfinished business. We'd like to invite Mr. Bonanno and his students to speak to the board regarding their experience with Envirothon.
Good evening. Dr. Corey, members of the Board of Education, to all in attendance tonight, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the Red Creek High School Science Department and the Envirothon program. On Wednesday, April 27th, 3 Red Creek teams and 15 high school students, grades 9 through 12, competed at the Wayne County Regional Envirothon competition held at Blue Cut Nature Center, located in Lyons, New York. At the end of the day, 1 Red Creek team qualified for participation at the New York State Finals, held at Hobart and William Smith College on May 25th and May 26th. At the completion of the 2-day New York State Finals competition, the Red Creek Rams, consisting of freshman Casey Dahl, sophomores Patrick Boyle and Gwenna Haas, junior Kendra Prosser and senior Brunita Haas, earned 7th place in all of New York State out of 35 teams. This was the best finish in school history. The team earned a plaque that will be placed in our science display case this Friday, which leads me to giving all of you an open invitation to attend this ceremony that will be held in our wonderful Red Creek Science area Friday at 2:30 p.m. We'd love to see you all there. So we're very proud of the achievements of all these students, their time, their commitment of this year's award-winning team, and all of the students participating this year. Behind me are a few members of the team that will briefly explain to you this year's theme and focus and what some areas the students are required to learn in order to be successful. As with all programs at Red Creek, we extend our gratitude to the Board of Education and Dr. Corey for the continued support this year and every year. So I'll turn it over to Kendra Prosser, Jr.
Hello. This year our team competed in Envirothon States at Hobart and William Smith College in Geneva. And so we work on 5 different topics, and I'm going to go over the current issue, and then we do an oral presentation. So our current issue this year was on waste management. So we worked on that and the importance of recycling, reducing your waste, and just making sure you're always mindful with how you, where you put your waste, how it's managed. And we did very well with that. And then our oral presentation also tied into that with the current issue, which our oral presentation, we were presented a problem and a hypothetical problem, and then we create a hypothetical solution to that problem, and we make sure we take into account all of the stakeholders, the communities, the schools, everything like that. And we do a 10-minute oral presentation about our solutions and addressing all the concerns that anybody in this issue might have. And this year it was on waste management and making sure we had place to store our waste, because that has become a bigger issue. And then Patrick's going to talk about some of the other topics we do.
So every year, in addition to the oral presentation, the team of 5 completes 5 tests at state. The tests are all 25 multiple choice questions with 2 open-ended tiebreaker questions. So like Kendra said, we had our current event issue, which was waste management, but we also have wildlife, soils, aquatics, and forestry, which goes over, the different topics related to that. Like in wildlife, we look at, zoology and ecology and being able to identify animals and different types of hunting laws and tools for hunting and such. In aquatics, you look at, different types of fish and aquatic organisms, water chemistry, hydrogeology. In soils, we look over different types of soils, different types of fertilizers, the best treatment for an area maybe regarding the land use, soil horizons and profiles. We also, there was forestry, where you have to be able to identify different trees and be familiar with lumber and units of wood and different types. And with all the events, you have to be familiar with, invasive species and just general science concepts. That is all. And I'd just like to thank you all again for supporting our school programs.
Don't go away. Any questions anybody wants to ask?
No, thank you.
Congratulations.
2 things. I think those of our generation feel confident when we have persons like yourselves getting involved, and with a serious look and the guidance. And Mr. Bonanno, what other staff were with you? Any?
So in addition to myself, we had Mrs. Stacy Brewer, who also brought a team to the regional competition, and Mrs. Carrie Griffith.
Yes.
Yeah, so Carrie has been doing Envirothon for 19 years, and I just did my 20th year. So it's another program that has a lot of sustainability, kind of apropos for Envirothon, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, there's expectations. There's a lot of trophies in the case, and we're really excited to add one more.
Good for you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Yep, thank you.
I just want to, again, thank you, Joe, Mr. Bonanno, for everything that you've done with these students, and, for both of the events that you took them on this year. You've done a great job. Your department is very supportive of each other, which is really nice to see. You have 2 great students right in front of you, but I know you're working with a very large population of fantastic students in our district. Special thanks to Kendra and Patrick. Patrick, you've come and talked to us a couple times now, so thank you for that. Kendra, thank you for coming out, and both of you have done a great job with this. And it's really challenging to get up in front of a bunch of people and actually speak to them at that level. And I know you're getting very good at it at this point. So thank you both for everything that you've done. And thank you, Mr. Bonanno.
Thank you. Okay. We're down to new staff, or excuse me, new business certified staff. We are A through J.
Brad, can we pull A first?
Excuse me?
Can we pull A?
Pull A.
That'd be 1.
You want to do that in the,
Yeah,
In the-
because of the time they've been here.
yeah, yeah. We'll save that for the end of this group.
Any
Yep.
other ones?
Anybody else with any of the other B through J? Do I hear any or all?
You want to do one at a time?
If you want to do one at a time,
Jolene looks confused, so I was.
Sorry,
Jolene?
I wasn't seeing the way that this was laying out. I'm like, where's J?
Your pink papers here.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
B through J.
A through B, what is it?
B through J.
You want to go B through J? Mr. Nodine?
All motion.
Yep. Second. Mr. Utes, second. For B through J,
I want to pull F.
you want to pull F. Okay, so let's go B through E and G through J. It's like bingo here. Okay,
Can we pull D, please?
can
I
we
have some
pull,
clarifying questions.
I'm sorry,
D?
T? Okay, all right, let's start again here. How about that? All right, let's go with, do I hear A, for B, C, and E? How about we start with those three? Do I have a motion for B, C, and E? Mr. Nodine. Okay, Mr. Curtis, a second?
B, C, and E.
Okay. Okay, for B, C, and E, B, the resignation of English teacher Nicole C. Stevenson. C, the appointment, substitute teacher Jenna Rosetta. And E, the appointment for a 21st century position summer program. Any discussion for those? No discussion? Okay.
I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Second came from Mr. Utes, right? Yes. Mr. Utes was the second. Or Mr. Curtis? Okay, thank you.
So many minutes.
Jolene?
I just want to make sure, I'm trying to remember E, what E was.
The 21st century
That's a 21st century.
summer program?
I believe that's one that we might need to pull because I would need to abstain.
It looks like you corrected it. I think you're correct.
That's the one.
Dates.
Is that the one? Yeah.
What?
So we have to pull E out.
Okay, we're gonna start again.
You want to do one at a time? Just do one at a
Yeah,
time.
all right, we're gonna do individually now. All right, let's just do that, because we got 4 out of there right now. All right, so let's start, we're gonna start again. I'm gonna need a new motion for the resignation, English teacher Nicole C. Stevenson. Mr. Nodine. No, we're holding A to the end. That was already requested, thanks. All right, Mr. Nodine just made a motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Allen? Okay, any question on this?
I'm sorry to see her leave so soon.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to see her leave so soon.
Yeah. Yep. It is unfortunate, so, all right, no discussion. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. C, the appointment of the substitute teacher Jenna Rossetti. We have a motion, Mrs. Allen. Mr. Curtis, a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right, I'm going to move down to G right now, and we'll come back to the others separately that are pulled. The appointment for athletic coaches fall sports 2022-23. Okay, a motion, Mrs. Madigan, and a second, Mrs. Allen. Any questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. Mr. McDonald, are you catching hand waves or nods, or both? I'm catching both. Because I watched your head turn, I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you. All right, appointment H, athletic coaches for the winter sports season 2022-23. Do I have a motion? Mr. Curtis, second, Mr. Utes. Any questions? Go ahead.
I would like to recommend that we discuss athletics before we jump, like, as a group, as we jump into appointing winter coaches. I feel like we have a lot of time ahead of us. I think we should kind of look at these programs and make sure that we have exactly the right people for the positions.
The coaches? Well, I think Mr. Lang has done evaluations.
Yep.
He submitted and done evaluations on all those persons before he brought a recommendation to the superintendent for us. Is there a question about?
I just know that there's a lot of concern in the community about some of these athletic programs. And
I mean, is there a particular question as to why we're not offering downhill skiing, or is it a particular question as to our own programs then?
it's a particular question to our current programs, and I guess if we have the right people in the positions to coach those programs for the winter season.
Well, okay, Kate, you got.
I know there's been a lot of concerns brought to me.
I just have a kind of separate from what you're saying. I'm kind of surprised to see this already. On a completely separate note, how would we have numbers for these teams yet?
Well, typically, based on my background experience, you get these appointments made. Sure, you don't know the numbers yet, but it actually helps coaches prepare. It also helps students to know what's happening after having done this for many years. So if there isn't, as you say, enough numbers,
Right.
then we adjust from there. And that's happened before.
Yeah, I was just kind of surprised because I know that some of these I would think would be a little low on our numbers, and then that just brings us back to have to adjust the coaching staff, whether they become a volunteer or assistant or something like that, which is why I'd also asked about the stipends associated with it. I was surprised to see it on here because we typically don't go two seasons out, in my experience. So I just thought that, if we were closer to it, you might actually have a better idea if we've got enough girls for a varsity and a JV basketball team, or, in the past, we've had more than one varsity wrestling coach or something like that. So I'm just voicing my question.
Yeah, that could be added, certainly, that's a good point. There could, if there's somebody else that wants to be added to a program, like you using your example of wrestling. But by this other side of the coin, it also demonstrates to the kids that we're serious about wanting to offer these programs. We have staff, coaches ready to take those roles on, and it also might inspire them to be involved. You don't really want to wait till you have your sign up because.
Oh, yeah,
No,
no, not
yeah,
that late.
yeah.
I was just thinking too, since it's so early, a lot of these people never change, but, maybe if it was, I believe I know one of the changes on here. If I wasn't in the school, would I know that we were appointing this early? You know what I mean? I don't know how we
Yeah,
find
so
the
part
coaches.
of it is we have an athletic director transitioning out, so we have a
Trying to
vacancy
get
in that
stuff.
position. We're trying to get things in place so that the
Gotcha.
new person coming in has the ability to not necessarily have to learn the entire staff before you're making those appointments, right? So you're working off of one season into the next season, which is typically done, as Brad had mentioned. However, it would be a disadvantage for that athletic director coming in and not knowing what the previous season looked like. So, what we tasked Mr. Lang with was to talk to the coaches, see who has an interest going into that winter season, solidify that so that we can have the new athletic director work with the students in trying to fill those teams out. We do realize that those teams will have to be adjusted one way or another. They could have more students, they could have less students. We could be consolidating teams, and we could be diminishing or adding teams. So all of that's been considered, but this is really to get those people on paper so they can start the work moving forward as early as possible. That was the reasoning behind putting that on the agenda.
It makes more sense with the clarification about the AD. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, You gotta remind me, I can't even remember now who made the motion, the second? Okay, so we got Mr. Curtis, Mr. Utes. Any more discussion? Okay, all right, all those in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Okay. All right, approval of the extended probation for the M.W. Kyler Elementary School Principal, Mr. Dennis C. Taylor. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Allen? And Mr. Utes, a second? All right, any discussion? Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain. Thank you. All right, a resignation of the elementary teacher, Teresa M. France. Do I have a motion? Mr. Curtis, Mr. Nodine, a second. Any questions, concerns, discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain. Thank you. All right, let's go back up. I'm going to work back up the list, back up to F. The appointment of the 2022 M.W. Kyler Elementary School School Summer Program Dean of Students. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr.
Did you call it? Did you put your hand
I'm
up?
sorry.
All motion.
You're Mr. Nodine. Okay, a second? Mrs. Allen, thank you. Any discussion?
I know I would like to have a discussion about these being paid or not paid. It doesn't note in the resolution that they are being paid or the amount that they're being paid.
They are paid positions. As I indicated, I think in an email earlier, they were $3,500 last year due to the increases through the 21st Century Grant that we have solidified moving forward for the next 5 years. All of our contractual pieces have gone up. So we've seen increases in our support staff, increases in our teachers as well. Pretty significant increase, and those increases were to align ourselves in relationship with the other 21st Century Grants that are happening in our region. So the dollar amount for Red Creek was actually significantly low previously. We've adjusted that up to be in the same area or same ballpark. The teachers are now at $32, where I think they were at $25.67 last year, somewhere around there. So that's a pretty significant increase, and that is also reflective on our 2 deans of students as well. It is a fairly large program. It crosses over a little bit into that 21st Century program as well. There's a lot of management that takes place with students as well as staff. It's really important to have an administrator on staff during the summer time to specifically deal with summer school. Our other administrative team is working on other things, preparation for the upcoming school year, those types of things. So their increase is in correlation with that.
And why is the amount not part of the resolution and the fact that it's paid?
Last year when we discussed it as a Board of Education, when we did the resolution, we didn't put it in, so we followed suit this year. It can be reflected in the resolution.
Yeah,
it's not a secret on how much
I would
it's.
like to see it reflected. I know that goes through your payroll, through your payroll system.
Sure.
And your auditors require that as sufficient backup, that your Board of Education is approving an amount that's being paid to individuals.
Yep, so can you make a motion to amend it to reflect $4,000 per individual?
Do I do that?
Yeah, you can if you'd like.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to change the resolution so that
Okay.
it states that each person will receive $4,000.
Okay, so actually, who made the original motion? So who's on first here? Okay, so really, if we stay with his motion, asking him if he wants to amend it that way per your discussion. Mr. Nodine?
Yes, I will.
Yes, he agrees.
Thank
And
you.
the second was Mrs. Allen, thank you. So you're in agreement to that? Yeah,
Thank
Okay.
you both.
Just to let you know, there's 87 students in that program. So and every day they keep adding more and more. So
yeah.
presently, they're about 87, right?
Yeah, it's been traditionally a very successful
Yeah.
program, and it's been developing over the course of the last couple of years.
So, good. All right, so we had a motion and with an amendment as per Mrs. Bliss's recommendation. Thank you. All right. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain. Thank you.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, yeah, and Mr. Curtis is abstaining. Thank you. Okay. All right, let's step up to the next one, working backwards. E, appointment for the 21st century positions, the summer school program. Do I,
We already voted on E, we should be on D.
what'd I do? Did I move by that?
You got to do
Uh,
E now.
No, we had
We're going.
skipped E.
He's going in the other direction.
I'm going up, I'm going up backward.
Gotcha.
Okay, I wasn't loud enough. We did E?
No, we did F.
Yeah, we did F, yeah, thank you. All right, we're still on the appointment of the 21st century positions, summer school program. All right, a motion, Mrs. Madigan, yes? Mr. Curtis, second? Any discussion? Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that I want to add is that, you know, our elementary teachers really came out to really support this program. We're excited to have them. You know, they have had a long couple years, and, you know, stretching out into the summer can be a little daunting at times, but they are taking the opportunity to move that forward and really support our students. So we're excited about that program.
Okay, great. Anything offered on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain?
Abstain.
You're abstaining? Yes. Julian's abstaining. Thank you. All right. All right. Going up to D now, please. The appointment for elementary school teacher Carly L. Nodine. Do I have a motion? Mr. Curtis. And Mrs. Allen, a second. Thank you. All right. Any discussion?
Yes, I just gotta find it, what our current resolution looks like. Meeting August 28th. Student appointment probationary, blah, blah, blah. Position, tenure, ending. Does this state, am I missing it? Does this state the date that our tenure becomes effective?
You have it? In the resolution? Yeah, I'll let you pull that up. I'm staying on this page.
I don't think so.
I can pull it. Let me scroll down here. Oh, thank you, Kim.
You're talking about the actual date for tenure? Be August 31st, 2024 is the end of the probationary period.
Okay. I know in our original resolution, we had noted it would be retroactive back to.
Correct, that's been adjusted.
Okay, so we're not going to state the beginning date any longer, we're just going to assume that it's the 3 years. before
Your
August
original
31st.
resolution set the starting date.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. So
So a
that,
new resolution is not going to state a starting date, just an ending date.
this is a reappointment of a position that starts a different probational period, crediting 2 years prior. So it's a 4-year tenure process, and it credits back 2 years.
Okay. Also, I want to confirm that step 4 is the correct step going into the 22-23 school year. I know that there was a COVID certification that happened in 2020. So there wasn't a certification in 2019.
Correct. Our
So-
long-term subs are paid on step 1 if they're full year.
Even not certified?
Long-term subs, yes. And there was a certification in place. It
Okay.
was a transition into a certification from one state to another,
Pending, right?
pending certification, which then got disrupted by COVID, which then got an emergency COVID up.
Okay.
Okay? Any other discussion? Thank you. Any other discussion? No? All set? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. I think we're all the way back up to A, right? Mr. Curtis, you asked for that one first? Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. A, the resignation and retirement of special education teacher Leanne E. Andrews. Do I have a motion? Mr. Curtis and Mrs. Allen, a second. She has been here a long time and done very good work, working with a large variety of students and all the challenges that come day in and day out. So, anybody have anything they want to add, Mr. Corey?
So, yeah, Julia's here, and I'll have her add a little bit for Leanne. But I just wanted to say, you know, moving up here to the high school over the course of the last year, I got to know some of the high school teachers a little bit better. Leanne was one of those people. She, you know, what I can tell you about Leanne is she is very caring about students. She will do anything for our students in our district. She certainly is a dedicated employee, a lot of energy. And, you know, you often see her buzzing around the building to go from one location to another, and it's all about working with our kids. Special education teacher, certainly has some expertise in special education and also ELA, and we have enjoyed her presence here and work in our district for quite some time. Julia has had the pleasure of working with her for many years, I think probably 18-ish years. No? 21 years? You've been here that long now? So 21 years, so I'll turn it over to Julia to, you know.
Yeah, hold on for just a minute. I'm going to hold you. Can you come up in fairness to the people that are watching elsewhere? Yeah, please. Yeah, she'll share.
I was just going to say she's a great advocate at the high school. And I actually, when I first got here, she was at Kyler, and she quickly moved up to the high school. And she has a degree in, she's able to teach reading as well. She doesn't like to say that very much, but that's why she was so good in an English language arts classroom. She worked many years with Charlie Cook as the consultant teacher with Charlie. She's done resource, she's done special class. She's basically done it all. We get audited in our department, and the joke is that we hope that they pick Leanne's IEPs because they're perfect. I mean, there's never been an issue with any of her IEPs. Mostly she's the senior, like the 12th grade special ed teacher, and she likes to see them leave, and she writes great IEPs. She will definitely be missed. We definitely need her. So I wish she wouldn't leave, but I'm happy for her retirement. She's done 31 years in this district. She started here. Chuck Pace was the person that hired her.
Yep.
Yeah, she's going to be missed.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Raina and I were walking down the hall the other day, and we ran into Leanne, and we started talking to her about the potential of coming back and subbing for us. And she was very excited about that opportunity. So she will be around, and it's nice to have some of that stability there. So thank you, Mrs. Herbst, and thank you, Leanne, for the years of service.
Yes, thank you very much. Yep, she's done a good job. Thank you, Mrs. Herbst. Okay, any other discussion? Anybody want anything to offer? Okay, so this is one of those that you always have reservations about wanting to approve, but we've got a motion and a second already. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. All right. Switching over, classified staff. We've got A through D. Do you want to take them separate? Yes, go ahead.
I'll give you a motion for all four.
All four?
Yeah.
So I've got a motion for A through D, a second. Mr. Nodine, he beat you. Mr. Nodine, A through D. So, excuse me. A is a resignation for a teaching assistant, Krista M. Sheldon. B, a resignation for the clerk typist attendance monitor, Emily K. Kosser. C, an appointment for the sub-teaching assistant, sub-teacher aide, and sub-food service helper, Jenna E. Rossetti. And D, the appointment of a sub-teaching assistant and sub-teacher aide, Catherine M. Cruel. Do we have any discussion? All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. Mrs. Herbst, you've been busy with the CSE recommendations and CPSE recommendations. We need a motion for those. A motion for those. Accept Mr. Curtis, Mr. Nodine a second. Any questions? Any questions for Mrs. Herbst while she is so good at coming to the mic? Any questions for her?
I had told her that she'd been very busy. So
She's been very busy.
And her team has been.
Yeah, it's quite the end of the year wrap-up, right? Thank you. That's a lot of work. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. Number 4, a request for equity transfers. We got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Individual or anybody give an idea? You want to do them all or independent?
I'd like to discuss 4.
Number 4, okay, a request for equity transfers. Do I have a motion? Motion, Mrs. Madigan, a second? Mr. Nodine is a second. Okay. All right, question, Jolene, go ahead.
I haven't seen a resolution put so, I guess vaguely, with the newer guidance that's come out from OSC. Per the Office of the State Comptroller, you're supposed to designate at least an amount, even an up to amount, that you're going to be putting into your reserves, and our resolution does not state that. It just says that we're going to put money into our reserves. And I don't think that's following guidance by OSC, and I think that we should probably adjust that to be in line.
If I'm hearing, trying to pull a question out of there, so are you saying that the question isn't as well listed in terms of what the transfer amount is or to where it's going?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I mean, it can say that you could do, say, $500,000 or up to $500,000 for into each of the reserves. But you are supposed to state an amount. It's not supposed to be an open blanket, just an open amount.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I know that with our property tax cap reserves, we actually didn't note that we were going to add any funds to our reserves by June 30th. So I definitely think that we should give a little more detail than we are with our reserve equity transfer resolution.
You want to speak to that? Okay, so. We're not gonna go anywhere near that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so, go ahead, Dr. Corey.
Yeah, I mean, what Bill's talking about, he hasn't closed his books out, right? So he's in the process of closing those things, and he'll have a firmer answer on what those allocations back into the reserves will be moving forward.
Right, I understand that. I mean, there should be, in the middle of June, a fairly close idea of what your fund balance is going to be and what your projected fund balance is going to be. You're not going to know exactly for definitely a couple months till you close out your books, but we should have a general idea.
So. Well, let's, remind me, go ahead, Kim.
I'm willing to change my motion to
Yeah.
amend adding up to $1 million.
Okay, I couldn't remember who did the motion, so thank you. So you're agreeable to
Yes,
what Mr. McDonald said?
wherever you want to fit it.
So let's make sure the wording, that, I think I heard you say, Mr. McDonald, that up to $1 million in any or all of the, what do I call it, accounts? Or reserves, excuse me. So who was our second on that?
I was the second, and I would just like to point out that it does state specifically that the Board of Education will be asked to approve a detailed equity transfer request, including exacted dollar amounts, as part of a final reconciliation of audited finance statements, so.
Which is customary. You have to give what the
I just wanted
exact is.
everybody to hear that it wasn't just a blanket, open-ended, blank check, that there was wording in there to guard against that as well.
Yeah, we probably remind me, I think we come back and this gets a final approval of what those were, starting, once the books are closed, as you say.
Yeah.
Next year, somewhere. Thank you. All right, so with that said, we had a motion and a second. We had an amendment to that motion. You've got that down. Thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you.
Yeah, I feel the rating is good, so we're good. So keep moving.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Well, the way it was worded, that you're coming back into a final, so.
Yeah.
You can put it as $1 million if you want.
Okay, so let's,
I know.
he needs to know for the vote. Again, we'll just, one more time. All in favor, please help him out, because.
Aye.
Aye, yeah. Oppose? Okay. Mr. Curtis, again, and abstain. Thank you. All right. Authorization, number 5, authorization for end-of-year budget adjustments, 2021-22. Okay, do I have a motion? Mr. Utes. And a second? Mrs. Allen, thank you. Discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? And abstain? Thank you. All right, number 6, the acceptance of the annual fire safety inspection report, 2022-23. Motion? Mr. Curtis and Mr. Nodine second. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right, 7, a request for general fund transfers. Do I have a motion? Mr. Curtis and Mr. Utes, a second. Discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. 2022-23 combined sports teams of boys and girls varsity and modified swimming and diving. And that's the way it's written, and just, that's with North Rose Wolcott.
Correct.
Yeah, as a
I just have
combined.
a question. real
Yes.
quick.
Do we want to get a motion first?
Mhm.
Mrs. Madigan, a motion?
Yep.
Second?
Sure.
Mrs. Allen, second, thank you. Okay, go ahead, question.
Are we combining varsity and modified into one team, or are we combining boys and girls, varsity and modified into one team? It's not co-ed, right?
I believe we're just combining the teams together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we have
Like
one.
varsities?
Yeah, I think we have one
Yeah.
student on the team
Yeah.
currently. Matt, do you know on the swim team, or I guess Matt?
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a different question, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Do we provide busing
We do.
for this?
We do not typically.
We do not typically, so we did not last year.
Correct.
So we do not plan on providing it next year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you get clarification on that, Kim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. Okay, number 9, approval of the Red Creek Administrators Association contractual agreement, July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Got a motion, Mrs. Allen, thank you. Got a second? Mr. Nodine, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. All right. Correspondence.
I don't have anything for tonight.
You don't have any correspondence for tonight. Okay. And I had, where'd my other sheet go? Right in here. Okay. Administrative reports. They're in the packet. Yep. It's always is helpful and thankful administrators putting their reports in to be able to review. Any other business that we have? Anybody? Yes.
I emailed you about a couple of things.
Okay, I'm open for the reminder.
Oh, okay. I had asked you if we could discuss the woman that spoke in public forum about, it was the same issue, the 6th grade layout for next year.
For the 6th grade plan, well, I think we could discuss, but it's really an administrative oversight in terms of, how they allocate the staff along with the person, or the students, how they arrange staff accordingly.
An oversight or a decision to
They,
make?
they have the oversight of
Right.
doing that, yes, yes.
You made it sound like it was like a mistake.
No, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah, so what I do want to say is that, we can discuss this more, but the general population of our school district has declined in general. There's a lot of different reasons. Some of it has to do with just a regular decline across New York State in public education, which has certainly been seen in many districts for the last 10 years, I'd say. Also, what we see is that with COVID, we had a lot more students who have been pulled for homeschooling or changed a program. So our numbers are actually reflecting lower. Right now, our smallest class size would be going into current 6th grade, or into sixth grade next year. So it's our current fifth grade class. The numbers right now reflect 40 students that are anticipated in going into sixth grade next year. So if it's 40 students, that's really essentially 2 sections. And then what happens is you have a K through 6 certification or a variation of, because there can be multiple variations of that certification. So your generalist would typically move to another location. So running 2 sections in 6th grade does not necessarily reduce staff. It just reallocates staff to another position that would have a higher level or a higher amount of students. So for example, right now moving into, let's say, kindergarten, we are anticipating about 55 students. 55 students in 4 sections reduces the amount of students in the class size significantly. So it becomes more manageable. So, you know, generally around kindergarten, pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, you want to keep those numbers as small as possible and really front load the smaller sections in those areas, which means that you make a shift somewhere else. We have also implemented some shifts or some additions of learning center programs. So math structure in the middle school is going to look a little bit different than the high school structure. The high school structure is going to be more of our traditional learning center that we've had in the past. Matt is still working on it, I believe, but restructuring it to be more of an AIS intervention, one-on-one or small group support for our students in the middle school. So our middle school right now is decreasing pretty significantly with 40 in 6th grade for next year, 81 in 8th, and in 9th grade, 66. So our big population of students right now is in 8th grade. They'll shift up to 9th grade the following year, and our 5th grade for next year is 67, so the following year we would anticipate moving that person back to that area. So it's just reallocating the staff based on the needs of the students.
I only had some questions because I guess I've been, as I stated, contacted about it.
Yep.
Excuse me. Can you tell me how many staff members we have associated with this current class of 40 in 5th grade?
Current class of 40 at 5th
How
grade?
many teachers do we have with this class?
So you have 3 sections currently, Dennis? Yes. So, and I can talk a little bit about that, and Dennis, jump in if I'm inaccurate on this, but when we started the school year for 21-22, over the summer, what has to happen is the principals have to predict how many students are going to be in those areas, so they go off of the previous year. He had anticipated, and I believe it was around 52-ish students, so he had 52 students who were starting off the school year in 2021-22. When by the time we got to summer, that was reduced down to around 49-ish. Is that accurate? And then throughout the course of the year, we've had a significant decline in that grade level. A lot of students went to the basically homeschool situation due to COVID, and other students actually moved out of our district. So we had some higher need students, both academically and behaviorally, who have actually left that grade level as well.
So you only had 3 gen ed teachers in the 5th grade this year?
Correct.
There's no special education?
There is a special education teacher in there as well.
So 4 adults total for 50?
For the grade level, yes.
And we lost approximately 10 students?
Carly's kind of over there.
Okay, so,
Would you like to hear from Carly?
no, not right now, thank you
Okay.
though.
Okay.
So we lost approximately 10 students? During that time, you were saying that people moved out?
Well, from 52 to approximately 40, so, yeah.
Okay, and so the woman that was speaking tonight that was concerned with the behavioral situations, and I'm assuming, does this population have a high number of IEP students?
So Julia, did you want to talk about?
It's less than 10?
No, not if you're not. Say that again, I missed that.
So how does that work? Let's just use a number 10 evenly. If there's 2 gen ed classroom or 2 classrooms, do you put all of those students in one class?
No, you also have to sorry, Julia, you also have to remember that IEPs are individualized educational plans, so
Right.
your needs could be very different than someone else's needs. So one could be extended time, while the other is, breaks or, a lot of different kind of variations that they could have. They could have tests read, just accommodations or modifications. Other students could have pretty significant things on their IEPs, like individualized instruction, right? So there's a whole gamut. So taking a number and saying, there's 12 students, and I'm just picking that number from somewhere, but saying there's 12 students with special needs, it doesn't make sense to just group them into one class.
Which is totally fine. I just also think it doesn't necessarily make sense to just say there's 40 students, because it might not, all students might not be at the same level. They might need additional help in certain areas. My
Sure.
whole point is not, I completely understand that this is a decision made by the administration. It's obviously a concern. My experience on the board has not seen a lot of parents getting involved because changing numbers of sections of students. It seems to be an issue this time. So I just think that it's important that we have a discussion, especially in open forum where people are, open session where people can understand why the decision was made the way it was made, as opposed to just saying, there's 40 kids, so we split them in half.
Well, no, I don't think that was the discussion. We just split them in half. I mean, essentially, if there's 40, they split in half, right?
Right, but I
But-
don't think that there was a clear understanding of why it was done.
Oh, okay. So Dennis or Julia, do you have anything you want to add to that? Matt?
Well, and if it's manageable, I can understand that. I just think that, we've had a good number of people come before the board in the last calendar year stating, my child is behind, my child isn't where they should be, they need more attention, we need to focus on getting our kids where they need to be, and that they're happy at school and comfortable in learning at a rate that they were happy with. So my question is just, I wanted to make sure that we're clarifying that for parents so that people understand why we made that decision. I'm sure.
Yeah, so one of the things that we were talking about, I mean, obviously if there's a reduction in the sections in sixth grade, it might be reallocating some of the special education services that would take place up there, right, to kind of offset that. I think in Dennis's particular building, we have seen the decline in enrollment, but where it becomes challenging is he hovers right around 3 sections to 4 sections. So there has to be some flexibility in there as well, and that becomes a challenge to predict, because over the summer he could lose 10 students in his entire building, but he could gain 5 in one particular grade level. So it needs to be able to flip-flop a little bit there as well. Sure.
So what I'm hearing you say is, based on the experience that's occurred for some of those newcomers to the school, or those very young ones like that, that's everything you're saying, that's where there needs to be the greatest amount of attention right now, to get them up, all meet their needs, because of what they aren't ready for. Okay. Right.
Yeah, and one thing that Julia's had to adjust for homeschool this year is making that outreach and figuring out whether those students are intending on coming back in district or staying out of district. And what we're seeing is a lot more students have decided to homeschool and stay homeschool during COVID, but their experience was positive for whatever reason. They decided to stay home. So that certainly has an impact in our numbers as well. You know, whether that's the right fit for them or not, that's up to their families to decide at that point. But she's had to adjust how she's done things with those homeschool students, where she's actually, her and her office have reached out to individuals and said, hey, do you anticipate coming back to school? And that was a big piece with the decision that went into that shift from 5th grade into 6th grade, because we had anticipated possibly another 10 students coming back into 6th grade that just aren't there right now. So that low number of 40 students really hits home. Our second lowest number of students is our senior class of 41 at this point. From there, we average in the 50s to 60s, and then we have that bubble right in 8th grade at this point in time. So we just have to be aware of where that bubble is, and the challenge becomes making sure that the certifications shift, you know, throughout the course of the staff as we move forward and allocate where we're putting people.
Thank you. Any more discussion concerning?
I don't have any more if
Okay.
anybody else.
I would only just state that it is important to consider that transition year from elementary into middle school is an important step for a lot of the students as well. Not that I'm a professional educator in any way, but it's just good to take note, you know.
It also, what I've just passed around, because these are reports that just came to us today with, you see the paper copy. This is kind of a follow-up of what the usage of the paper tutoring is. So you see a graph of the outline of that. And if as you look at the pie chart, the 9th graders are using it quite a great deal. And we said what? 4th grade is using it a great deal. When you look at the pie chart, the same with 6th grade. So this is meeting some students' needs and help parents as well. So just as a FYI, as a follow-up to that, taking that initiative and getting that available.
Can I ask a question about this or not?
Sure.
That 26% on there, is that 26% of the population or just a number associated with it? 26% of the usage of the program is 9th grade. She's shaking her head yes with a thumb up.
Okay.
So part of the other thing, and Cindy, please jump in if there's anything you want to add, but part of the other thing is that this particular company is very good at working with our administrative team. I believe you guys had a meeting either this morning or yesterday to kind of debrief and talk about the program and where we are with the usage. So do you want to add to that, Cindy?
Some growth. Sure. Good.
So what we were hearing several months ago was that, you know, what kind of resources could we put in place to support our students? Challenging, obviously, with personnel. This was a way to accommodate some of that need. It's not the only tool, and it's certainly not the only strategy that we're putting in place, nor is it the only strategy that we have put in place, and we anticipate doing some other things as well. But this was a immediate response to a need that was basically driven by COVID. We have found success in this in certain areas. I mean, it's certainly not, you know, universal at this point. Cindy and I and Dennis spoke, I don't know, about a month ago and said, hey, you know, this is functioning in the middle school, high school at a certain level. Maybe we should push that out into the elementary. Dennis, I believe, spoke with his leadership team in the elementary school. They were in agreement to it, and we moved on from there. So it's encouraging to see that Kyler's students are utilizing it. I know technology is another thing that can be challenging sometimes, especially in those early grade levels, but I think it's certainly something that has been proven to be worthwhile, and we will plan on continuing it as long as we are finding success in it. I believe the administrative team meets with the actual company quarterly, I think. So quarterly, and they give monthly, and then they give a report out on what they're doing and other ways of actually advocating for the program and starting to develop things out.
I just have one more quick thing
Sure.
about if we could jump back to the sixth grade. So is there, I'm assuming that it can't just be kindergarten and first, that you have these increasing numbers every once in a while. So is there a cutoff number for sixth grade if we have kids that decide not to homeschool, if we have kids that transfer in? Is it 50?
So I don't know that you have an exact number. I mean, we try to keep our classes on the lower side, so this keeps our class at 20. Typically, our classes are between 17, 18 students. We try to keep them a little bit lower at the primary grades if possible. The reason that they were talking about that influx there is because of the kids who stayed home and just did not come to school, you know, into the kindergarten. So I think you were
But I mean, we won't be going into the fall with a sixth grade that's got 24 or 25 kids in a classroom.
We don't anticipate that at all, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Curtis?
So I have one thing before we move out of this, to the public, just letting them know, I see they're still looking for Operation Graduation donations out there, so anybody that can donate food or whatever for Operation Graduation would be great. I do see where they've got a small amount of cash that's been donated, so I think it's a great event, and I think that, you know, hopefully we can get some more community support.
Do you want to tell them where they can make the donation? I mean, somebody that's listening?
Right now, looks like I would say the principal of the high school, Raina,
Okay.
would be the good place to get it.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I have one thing too. I just don't want to lose sight of it that came up earlier today in discussion about the scholarship for graduation. It was just a question of how it, wasn't on the agenda for today. There was a choice of how we wanted to move forward with that. So I just didn't want to lose sight. Do we want to hold a special meeting to approve it, or do we want to approve it and then retroactively at the July meeting? So I don't know if we wanted to talk about that super quickly.
Does everybody understand what's going on there? Okay. So two scholarships that the Board of Education typically approve, usually done in this meeting. We're running a little bit behind on the meeting on that for various reasons, but their meeting is anticipated on being on Monday with the committee to make the determination on who receives that scholarship. So the option that I put out there is that we could either retroactively approve it, or we could have a special meeting in between.
I think retro is fine.
It seems like a retroactive approval.
Isn't everybody going to be there on the 15th, though?
Yeah, but then that's not really a call. Can we do business in that
Do
meeting?
a special, just a 5-minute special.
can we make
Just a
a
suggestion.
retreat, a meeting as well?
Well, you could open it into a meeting prior if it's in
For
a,
5 minutes?
yeah.
Yeah, you know, there'll be other people there, but this is not, you know, it's not like it's confidential information. So let's do that on the 15th. Yeah, and we could just do a 5-minute, I guess that would need to be posted. Yeah, you have to post that we're gonna have a special short meeting to approve scholarships, okay? Yep. Okay, and thank you, because I had it written down as a reminder that on the 15th, next Wednesday, from 4 to 8, we're having our retreat. We'll be in the library, and the other new board members are also have got the letter and the invitation to come to that as well. So we'll have that opportunity. And then the other thing I was going to share with you, I did send you out the email that on the super eval, we can decide on dates, because those dates that were there were soft dates that were put in before. We can decide that whatever works for us on that. So
When does it have to be submitted?
what's
When
that?
does it have to be completed?
There's not a deadline. That would be defined by the dates that we choose. What she talked to me, the woman that talked to me, that it's whatever dates, it can go whenever we want to select them. It's not like this month, it has to
They
be.
can carry into next year?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I mean, because, you know, that evaluation is just on this past year, this existing year, yes,
Okay.
It's not preferable.
yeah. So, do we have any throw out, yes,
Oh, no.
date?
I don't have any dates at all.
Yeah, that you want to throw out, because what it would do, it would allow Dr. Corey the date to be able to finish his portion, to then we would get a notice that we could complete our half on that.
Does anyone remember the date that we landed on last for his portion to be done? Was it June? Okay, June today.
Well, no, we actually had those dates that we had, we had the 31st and the 1st were dates that were listed in there. But
But
Go
then
ahead.
we realized we couldn't move forward. We were all at a standstill. We were kind of locked out of our next step.
Right.
Right? So we should determine a date to finish up that portion so we can keep going on our end.
Right, that's what I was just kind of referring to. That's the date that needs to happen. So,
I don't know, I spent 80 hours answering emails today, so, I don't know. Tell me when you need it in.
what's today? Today's the 8th. Let's,
About- Yeah, me too. Me too. Can we do a week from today on the 15th? Is that doable?
with the end of the year demands and all, you tell us.
I'll do what you need me to do.
Well, you want to do that? If he gets his portion in by the 15th, and that really is then, it allows Mr. Curtis and Mr. Utes still to put their part in. Joe, you wouldn't be on to this yet, but the rest of us would.
And then are we inviting Sue to complete her
Right,
portion as well?
right.
Okay.
She's just in a holding pattern to be
Right.
able to finish that, yep.
That gives us 2 weeks after the 15th to wrap it up.
Okay, all right. So once we get notice that his is in, then we can go back in and complete our portion, okay? Then, which would we say, the 15th you just said? I suppose if we had, you had your calendar open.
Yep, so the 15th is next Wednesday.
That's a
Week from
Wednesday.
today.
The week from the
22nd's the week after.
If we had it in by the 22nd. Okay? All right. Now, anything else anybody wants to add? Yes?
The other thing I emailed you about, I think, I don't think we have a really clear definition of how we're addressing tragedies within the community. And, my email to you and Mr. Corey, obviously
I don't think it wasn't not addressed by the school. It just, the school had a lot of internal things going on that day to make sure that our people and our staff and our students there were people available for them.
Well, I think, after the recent event in Texas, you sent out an email
Mhm.
stating that there would be, that your children are safe and that there was counseling. I guess I was, I think, I was, and I think that there were other community members were thinking that there would be something similar to that for an event like this. And I just, again, I'm not looking to decide anything tonight. I just think that maybe we need some parameters about when we extend something from the district and
Well,
when we don't.
Well, I do know that in discussion with him about, I mean, he was in, pretty immediate the next morning, next day, or the first day back, with the counselors, found out what their need, explored things with them, and what kind of foot traffic they were experiencing. And said there really wasn't any.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of foot traffic in the counselor's office.
Yeah, with regard to that, nor from staff indicating that there was a level of concern. So you had made a contact with people that needed to know. Of course, we do have a crisis team anyway that's built. So.
Yeah, I'm just, if we had a plan, if we had guidelines for that type of thing, how we address it, maybe people wouldn't be surprised that if, something happened to a graduate from 10 years ago, they're not expecting a letter out to the community, or it's just an idea.
It's probably pretty hard to put a measurement on, because probably no two instances are the same. To then have a template already designed. That's yeah. So yes.
To kind of add to that, I know there definitely in the community was a little disappointment that the school didn't respond at all, just, giving their thoughts to our community. I mean, this was a hard hit for our community. But also, I agree. I think that we should discuss how the district wants to handle not even just the students, but we had faculty that lost somebody. And there wasn't anything put out, to our staff. My understanding, there wasn't an email put out to our staff saying we're sorry for the loss. And it was multiple of our staff members that lost somebody. And a close family member. It's not like it's a distant family member. I know there's a distant cousin of the individual that sadly passed, who works at a neighboring school district, and they had found out that they had lost somebody, and they sent an email out to their entire staff saying that they were sorry. I mean, this is somebody that was a distant cousin of the person that was lost, which I think is very kind. And I don't necessarily think you can overdo that gesture. So especially, I think speaking to, I forget the lady's name that spoke this morning, and about community and the school kind of pulling away from our community and then becoming very separate. And I do know that that's a very big concern in our community, is feeling like the school doesn't care about our community. And I think some of those things and those gestures could go a long way. Again, you can't do it for everybody all the time, but perhaps we should have a discussion about who it would be appropriate for.
You hate to leave anybody out that way, wouldn't you? So, and I think, as we're doing business here, and as we heard Mr. Bonanno and his students, and other help from the administrative staff about how they're attending to student needs, I would certainly hope that no one is planting any seeds of any sort, that somehow we are the schools moving away from the community when we have our own community center and opportunity and activities, just like all the driver ed kids were coming in families tonight. So there is things happening. There's probably not a perfect world for that and we can always look at something that might be able to be offered, but we're doing an awful lot too.
And
Yes.
just to a different note, is sometimes people who have lost somebody really doesn't need to put it out to the public that they lost somebody. It's somebody that has, you know, and how the people passed. I understand the people that are in the school, and I understand farther out. You know, anybody that's in the school, yeah, we probably should come up with something saying your deepest thought, regrets. But anybody that's out, you know, yes, I didn't want anything from the school. You know, just to let everybody know that sometimes you don't want that. How do you want to put it?
Level of it.
Publicly out there that, you know, has happened. So just to keep it in the back of your mind that, you know, sometimes you might be overthinking things. So sometimes if you blast it out to everybody, maybe that person, you know, that'd be different. But it's hard to get a message out to everybody that is connected into that family that their deepest regrets, be it school or whatever. You know, an employee, that employee family member, that might be different, but relatives and everything else, it's almost impossible to get it out to everybody. So just keep it in the back of your mind. Just keep it in the back of your mind.
I wasn't saying that we would reach out to individual people.
Yeah, it just, you know, maybe in the future you guys should think about, you know, how do you, an employee that is here.
Do we still send letters of condolence
Yeah.
to employees? So we did that this time too? Or is it only for a certain? So it's not, it has to be an immediate family member?
It just, you know, an employee, you might want to just, you know, down the road think about it. I understand, you know, this was 3-4 years out of school, you know, so it's not that school doesn't care, because trust me, they still care 30 some odd years later, they still care. You know, it's just the fact that it's hard to address every situation out there, just letting everybody know it is hard to. But as a school, I just want everybody to know that counselors are here if somebody needs it. So.
Yeah, and just to speak on, you know, the notion that we don't want people in our building, that is completely inaccurate. We advocate for people to come into our building. However, we just went through a global pandemic that required us to keep people out of our district and socially distanced. We are still going through that. We understand that we're still going through that, and we're doing the best we can to bring back as many of those events as possible. We've had several events that took place. I mean, I attended the circus with Dennis Taylor and his entire family. Those events are happening. I don't know that, you know, people are seeing those the same as what they used to. The grandparents' tea did not happen this year, right? So we understand that. We will try to bring those things back, but we have to be understanding that our safety of our students is #1 priority. And, you know, there's a lot going on right now in the world. There's a lot of social unrest, I'd say. You know, you can't go anywhere, you can't spend a day without hearing something in the news that is terrifying, and we're doing the best we can to protect our community. You know, in many ways, health and safety-wise, you know, that's a priority #1. So we are trying to bring those things back in. We've had some great concerts this year that we've just had. We've had pretty good attendance, I would say. Maybe not the attendance that we had previously for some of the concerts, but I would say they're pretty heavily attended. There are people who are still afraid to go out in public, and that's okay. You know, we're certainly understanding of that. We're doing the best we can to offer those opportunities. And I, you know, quite honestly, I'm offended when people say we don't care about the community, because we are here for the community. That's our #1 priority. I'm a member of this community. It's really disheartening when you hear that. And there's a lot of things that are put out there that are inaccurate. So.
All right. Any more discussion? Anything anybody wants to offer? I know I'm going to need a motion to go into executive session for negotiations update and personnel. Mrs. Allen made the motion. Got a second? Mr. Curtis? Okay. Thank you.